Hello, beautiful, and welcome to Cultivating Inner Beauty. My name is Ashley Thompson, and in today's video, I want to talk about chapter 5 and how we can respond to stress the biblical way. But before we get into that, welcome and thank you guys for subscribing to my channel and everything. Let's get into the recap of chapter 5. So, according to my cliff notes, Esther, she gets off her 3-day fast and she goes to King Xerxes to host a banquet for him and Haman. King Xerxes, he asks her, what does she want? She could have anything she wants. But after the banquet, she says, I want to host another banquet. And side note, I love this part of Esther because it makes me think of myself, especially growing up, because when my friends wanted to spend the night or I wanted to stay over to their house, I couldn't just ask my mom. So I had to clean and make sure I did everything right, responded the first time she calls my name and everything if I wanted this to happen. And so for Esther to do this in the story, it just made me think about myself, how I was. But let's get back into the story. So Esther, she tells King Xerxes that she wants to host another banquet. As this is happening, Haman, he's going about his day and he sees Mordecai again, and it disturbs him a little bit because he already doesn't like this man. He goes home, he brags to his family about his role being next to the king and everything. He had this banquet, and then him and his family, they agree that maybe it's time to go ahead and get rid of Mordecai first. And so he agrees that's what he's going to do. But let's talk about how we can manage our stress according to chapter 5. So my first point for you is to pause before you react. Pause before you react. Now, in my previous video, I talked about the benefits behind fasting with the Lord. And one of the things is that happens is that when you surrender to the Lord, you're not only surrendering your flesh, but you're surrendering your whole entire body, including your nervous system. Because a lot of things happen with the nervous system when we decide to react out of our emotion. When we do this, wisdom can't lead because we're reacting out of our feelings. And so our brain amygdala, it acts as a smoke detector, sensing danger, and it actually starts the fight or flight response after it triggers the commander, the hypothalamus. And so this is what happens. And then if you've experienced this, you probably have had some physical symptoms like your muscles start to tense, probably your digestive system, it starts to slow down. So you're not able to digest food properly, and your hormones are released as well, especially the stress hormones. And so all of this is causing havoc in your body, all because you decided to react out of your emotions. And one of the things that I loved about Esther during this time is that Esther, she wasn't moved by people or her environment. She knew what was happening with the Jews and with Mordecai and Haman in the previous chapters. But since the fast, what she did was that she started to move with boldness and clarity. She went to the king, even though it probably could have cost her life, but she was so bold after coming out of that fast. She moved with clarity. And so my encouragement for you is don't move out of your feelings, but with wisdom. My second point for you guys is to steward your stress. So if you didn't do point number 1, which is to pause before you react, now you're probably in the stage of chronic stress. Now, we can also experience stress involuntarily when it comes to delivering a baby, surgery, grief over losing someone. These are things we can't help. And so we have to guide our bodies back to aligning how it previous was before those traumatic events. But if you've experienced chronic stress out of your emotions, then this also can affect your scalp health, your skincare, as well as your hormones as well. And so what do we do, Ashley? I'm glad you asked. The first thing that I'm always going to recommend is that you pray. If you're like, yes, I've already prayed, what do I do now? Because the same situation is still right there. There's nothing that changed. Well, it's so easy to pray. We pray out of our mouth, is, speak the words out there and that's it. But did you give it to God? If it's still in your heart and you're still worrying about it, then you didn't give it to God. And so when you do this, you're not constantly talking about the issue with your family and friends. If the situation happened at 8 o'clock in the morning and you're still talking about it at 2 o'clock in the morning the next day, then you haven't given it to God. And one of the things that I loved about Esther again is that Esther, uh, after she talked to Mordecai, she went on the fast and then she moved on. She didn't go back to Mordecai, to what was familiar, to talk about this stressful situation, but she moved forward in the boldness that she received. And the thing about Haman is that he was already under a lot of stress with Mordecai because Mordecai would not bow down to him. And also because he's a Jew. So Haman already didn't like this guy. And he went to his familiar, which was his family. And that was how he stewarded his stress. And so we do not want to be like Haman and try to, go to what's familiar to get that validation, to get that approval from our family and friends, knowing that we're not supposed to move in that way, but we want to steward our stress the Esther way. And so how we do this is by first, of course, I will always going to say to pray, but you could also work on having a consistent sleep schedule. This is going to help to align your nervous system, as well as practicing gratitude. A lot of times when we're worrying so much about our situations, it's easy to not pause and reflect on what the Lord has already done. So pause and reflect and practice gratitude, as well as enjoy the things and people that you love. So if you can help it, get out of that stressful environment and be with the ones that doesn't cause you stress. Turn your phone off on do not disturb. Don't keep meditating on it and keep just talking about it and everything. Like, change it up. My third point for you is to move with discernment. So as I said before, we can bring on distress ourselves by doing too much. If we're talking about it, we're sharing and just doing too much on a day-to-day basis, and then we're not making the best decisions in the moment at time. We're just moving because that's how we feel in the moment. This is not moving with discernment. And so, again, what I loved about Esther is that she fasted and then she waited. And then she moved with her instruction, and then she waited again. She didn't just move, like go straight to the king. First, before she even fasted, she was scared. And so she needed some intervention. And so by doing this, this helped her to have a strategy in when to talk to the king and when to be quiet. You have to like really be aligned and out of your feelings when it comes to this, because if you're like upset or something, it's so easy to like just throw things out into your environment by speaking on negative things, even on assignments that God has given you. You just blurt them out like, this is what I'm going to do, and then other people can move on those assignments and take off with them. Ask me, how do I know? Because yeah, that has happened to me. And so we don't want to move like that. We want to move with discernment. How do we do that? I'm glad you asked. Well, first we want to identify the core issue. What is the main issue that's we're concerned with right now? And then we want to gather data. And this is by not operating out of our feelings, but what are the actual facts around this issue? And then we want to filter through advice. And this is where having that relationship with the Lord is key, because we don't want to filter through our advice through our family and friends. Now, the Lord can use our family and friends to talk to us in the moment, but we don't want them to be our main resource. We want to make sure that we're still hearing from the Lord as well, and making sure it aligns to his character and his principles. And so this is like asking the Lord, like, how does this affect me? Or asking yourself, how does this affect me? How does this protect my peace? Or does it protect my peace? And just filtering through those different paths, that's going to help give you clarity, and also help build strategy on when to move and when to wait and be still. So these are my 3 quick tips on how you can respond to stress. I pray that this video has helped you. Make sure you share it with someone that comes to mind that needs to be still and just rest. Okay? Talk to you next time. Bye, beautiful.